I have said this before and I will say it again. I am a massive wuss, I'm a massive baby. If something is meant to be scary, I actually freak out from my sofa and have to turn the damn thing off. I know I'm a grown adult and I should know better, but hey, that's just who I am and I'm happy to accept it. But yes, it also means sometimes I don't actually get to the end of movies because again, I can't handle the content being thrown into my face. So welcome to What Culture. My name is Simon Miller and this is 10 sci-fi movies too scary to finish, at least according to me. Number 10, The Void. Released in 2016, The Void takes a loving nod back to the 80s when you had stuff like practical effects, makeup, and monsters that were just so much fun to look at. I mean, they're far better than what CGI comes up with nowadays. And I know I sound like an old man, but I guess I'm an old man. Even the plot sounds like it came straight out of 30 years ago, because it does indeed follow an unfortunate group of so-and-sos in an abandoned hospital who not only have to deal with a cult, but also have to deal with this like undead, crazy thing whose best friend happens to be a monster that has also clearly been inspired by Lovecraftian material. And while I have mentioned the 80s a couple of times too, there is no such campy feel when it comes to The Void. In fact, it is so dark, it is so horrific, and it's so gory, as you probably figured out, it's really hard to get to the end. In fact, there is zero comic relief throughout the whole thing, and if you do manage to get to the conclusion, it will turn your stomach to such a degree, you may actually go, I should have listened to that bald guy on the internet. He knew what he was talking about. Number 9, Kuso. While there are going to be a lot of mainstream movies on this list, we're also going to dive a little bit underground here and there, hence why we're about to talk about Kuso. Coming from rapper and producer Flying Lotus in 2017, this is 100% the most disgusting movie we are going to talk about on this video. And if you are able to make it all the way through, I would say 100% go and watch a David Lynch movie straight afterwards, because that's going to be absolutely easy for you. You clearly have the chops. Following a group of mutated survivors that are living in a post-apocalyptic LA, this is broken up into separate stories, and within those stories, you get some kind of thing that eats its own feces, a woman that likes to eat concrete, and a large talking bug that lives up another man's ass. Yep. As you can figure out, there is a level of dark comedy that underpins this, but that doesn't mean what you're watching isn't disgusting, as backed up by the fact when it was first shown at a film festival, at least 20 attendees stood up and they walked out, and I probably would have been one of them. Number 8, Videodrome. David Cronenberg was always going to pop up somewhere on this list, and don't worry, he does get another appearance later on. The director is a hero to gorehounds all around the world, and his coming together of cold tone mixed with spectacular special effects are a lot of people's cup of tea. But even with all of that, surely Videodrome is one of his most harrowing works ever. With a story that takes on snuff films, mutations, and violence that goes to the nth degree, you also have a tale about a video producer that gets obsessed with sensationalist programming and decides that he should just air it. So the enemy in all of this is kind of the TV shows that are being put out there, but also the audience that are so screwed up they actually want to tune in. You also have James Woods that holds all of this together, and I tell you, it is almost impossible, especially when you get to the final third. If you're a normal human being though, you will never observe this, because nobody should be able to witness this without at least going, I don't feel very well. Number 7, Tetsuo. We have talked about this before, but when you're doing a list like this, how the hell can you not talk about it again? Because Shinya Tsukamoto's 1999 Tetsuo, the Iron Man, is one of the most flubbed up movies you'll ever see, especially because there's no build here. From minute one, it is absolutely horrific. For starters, you see a man jabbing a metal rod into an open wound. This happens within the first 5 minutes, meaning you probably won't get to minute 6. And if you do get past that, 60 seconds later, you see that this wound has a bunch of maggots crawling around in there, and that's when you grab the remote and go poop and turn off the television. Extreme cinema goers absolutely love it, and you can see why. And the whole production team does deserve all the credit in the world for actually creating this, even though they were on a limited budget. It seeks shots and it gets them, and before long, you have seen so many items being shoved into human flesh, you may actually get used to it. It also doesn't make any sense and is deliberately bonkers, but I actually think that's the reason why it was made, and also the reason why people watch it. Number 6, The Thing. Some sci-fi is gruesome in look and other sci-fi is gruesome because of the tension and the way it makes you feel, but when it comes to The Thing, it takes both of those, pushes them together, and is a masterpiece. Noticeable for smashing all of this back in 1982, the sense of dread here is absolutely horrible because you are taught very early on you can't trust anybody, and the paranoia that's running through the film actually leaps out from the television and starts running through your own body. Throw in some incredible special effects and some gore that still holds up today, and I tell you, there's a reason this is a classic. John Carpenter knows what he's doing. It somehow didn't hit home when it was released 38 years ago, but a huge reason for that was at the same time, E.T. got thrown out of there. And maybe unsurprisingly, family audiences would rather have gone and watched that, with a nice alien, than whatever the hell this was. Do make sure you've seen it though, unless of course, a dead man's head like growing spider legs and running around the floor is too much for you, because you are indeed going to see that. Number 5, Event Horizon. This is crap, yes, we all know that, there's no point pretending otherwise, but it also all depends on what your expectations are when you do sit down to watch it. If you can get them right, Event Horizon will have something for you. Also, don't go for the cinematic release either. You gotta find the version that has everything left in it because there's so much gore and it's so disgusting. When the studio first saw it, they went, well, we're never gonna release it if you leave it in, so you 100% have to take it out. Following a space crew who do indeed board the Event Horizon before coming across another derelict ship and thinking to themselves, we should figure out what's going on over there, this really does take its time, and at first, doesn't exactly let you know what this film's all about. You'd think it was just another basic sci-fi horror for a good hour, but then as soon as you learn what did happen to this other crew, the door is blown open and madness ensues. The gruesome mayhem never stops as soon as director Paul W.S. Anderson has started it, and the just sheer crazy cuts and the choppy hyperactive nature of it all makes it even worse. You also feel incredibly tense and claustrophobic throughout because you're meant to in the way it's shot. Every corridor is just so tight, and you do not need to sit down and watch this unless, of course, you think the idea of Sam Neill ripping his own eyes out is a jolly good time. Because that is what he does. Number 4, Extro. British censors banned this in the early 80s and said that it couldn't be screened or sold to the public. You know what that did? It just made everybody on their dog go, hey, I want to go and watch Extro. And really, more fool them. Because while this was critically accepted more than some other films on this list, it is still something that you're not going to get any joy out of watching. Following some dude that gets abducted by aliens before vanishing off the planet for a few years, he eventually finds his way back to Earth and decides, I'm going to go find my ex-wife and son and see if they want to get back together. But surprise, surprise, they've moved on because again, he literally disappeared. The problem is that our main guy is now some human-alien hybrid who is also now capable of telekinetic powers. He then gets his own family into danger, and then the whole thing goes downhill. You likely won't get to that point now because the sheer body horror and blood spilled during this is enough to once again make you go, there's anything else I'd rather be doing than viewing this. None of it makes any sense either, which makes you feel more uncomfortable. And if you're only used to quote-unquote normal cinema, and then you stumble across Extro, you will feel like your brain has slipped out of your ear and run down the road. It is like being born into a different world, which is somewhat ironic given what happens to the main guy in the piece. Number 3, Society. Highlighting why Screaming Mad George was always in high demand when it came to his very impressive prosthetic work, Society can be described in one word, and that one word would be demented. It's another one of these films too where you get an hour of footage which is perfectly normal, but then when it turns so harshly you may actually think like you're watching a different movie and of course switch it off. Following a privileged teenager who unravels a conspiracy implicating both his family and their friends, Society holds on to this secret for as long as it can before welcoming you to this walking nightmare, and to be honest, you'd rather not know. As a spoiler, our protagonist learns that all of these people are indeed inhumane, monstrous creatures that weld their naked bodies together while eating other humans. There's an orgy scene that will make you want to throw up, and seeing faces protruding from areas of the body where there 100% shouldn't be faces is enough to make you think you made a terrible, terrible mistake. It really does need to be seen to be believed, but take it from me, it's better off if you never see it at all. Number 2, The Road. I like to think at least one person saw The Lord of the Rings and really liked the character of Aragorn, and then went to IMDb and said, oh, what else has Viggo Mortensen been in? And then they found The Road and they put it on because boy howdy were they in for a surprise. Adapted from the book of the same name, we once again find ourselves in a post-apocalyptic world where a father and son, as you can imagine, are struggling to survive. It's rough to watch anyway because the environment is just so desolate and it's just so bare. But by the time you get to the bit where they're almost eaten by cannibals, well, forget about it. From here, it just takes a detour to highlight just how horrible humans can be, and if you do actually make it to the end, don't think there's some good conclusion that's going to make you feel happy inside. No, it goes the other way, and it just beats you down, and it beats you down, and it beats you down. It goes from bad to awful to depressing, and it's so bad that the 111-minute running time actually feels about 400 minutes. And I'm not saying that it's not well acted or very faithful to the original text, because it is, but again, it's just so harrowing, and it's just so nightmarish, and it's just so exhausting. Number 1, The Fly. I used to think the reason I hated The Fly as much as I did is because I saw it when I was a kid, and no child should be watching that. But I was incorrect, because you can be 456 years old, and David Cronenberg's The Fly, it will forever be just one of the most disgusting, is the only word I can think of, one of the most disgusting films ever that is so hard to watch. A remake of the late 50s original is just so upsetting to watch, not only because of the physical transformation that you're witnessing Jeff Goldblum go through, but also because the story is so damn heartbreaking. If it's not the sight of a man taking his own fingernails off that gets you, it will be the breaking up of two people that at one point seem very much in love. It means you get hit in the emotional gland and the stomach at the same time, but that's also why in 2020 people still see The Fly as an all-time masterpiece, even though throughout it absolutely nothing goes right. You should get to the end if you can, because again, this is great, but if you can't, don't worry, you won't be alone. Know of any other sci-fi movies that are too scary to finish? And man, I could reel off another 30 if you wanted, but I won't. Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com, read yourself some articles, follow What Culture on Twitter @WhatCulture, and watch more videos here on What Culture. My name is Simon from What Culture. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you when I see you.